Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Strategy Professor, and we're going to be doing a little bit more on our legendary Dwarven campaign here. Um, we're still on turn one. It had a whole lot of exposition last turn, or last stream rather. But I appreciate you guys sort of just being patient with me. If you're a veteran Total War player, as I explained last time, I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and sort of understands what all of the strategic options are available to them, because even if you've been playing Total War for quite a long time, you may not have understood things like how does armor work, how does melee attack versus melee defense work, how does the running mechanic work, how does some of these other mechanics work. So I hope I was able to explain a lot of that for you. We're going to do a little bit more exposition at the beginning of this episode, but then we're just going to start picking up the pace and moving a lot faster through the campaign. So if you're worried that it's a little bit slow and you kind of already know what's going on, we'll start moving a lot more quickly once I feel comfortable that everyone's on the same page here. So you can't save the game on legendary mode, so that's something to think of for sure. It just basically ends at the very end of your turn. You're able to save, and then after each combat it automatically saves for you as well. So that's really important to keep in mind if you want to play on legendary, is don't go through and do a bunch of campaign stuff like building buildings in your town, making tech tree decisions, moving around the map, and then just exit to Windows, because it's not going to save that. You have to get into a fight, or you have to end your turn to get a save. So that's one very important difference from any of the other difficulty settings. And this really stops you from save scumming, right? If you get into a fight and you lose it, you have a terrible fight, you're stuck with that. Like, you cannot go back and redo that. So I think it helps keep people really honest and adds a great level of difficulty to the experience, which I personally enjoy. I try to look for some of the toughest experiences possible with strategy because I really like the challenge. One consequence of this, though, is that I took a small break after the last broadcast, but I wasn't able to shut down the game yet because we still have to build buildings, and I still have to take a look at diplomacy before I end the turn. And I want to explain that to you guys as I go through that. So I wasn't able to save, so I just took a brief little break before this recording. But what that means is I wasn't able to go back and play a custom game and see exactly what the stat differences are on Legendary. So I'll have to do some experimentation and disclose that in the next episode for you after we have an appropriate save point, right? So I also went back and viewed the episode from last time, and I just wanted to clarify a few things that I ended up muddling. I'm still new to the broadcasting and recording thing here, as you can see, so I kind of stumbled over my words, got a little nervous in some of the explanations, and I really appreciate you guys bearing with me on that. So one of the things in particular that I feel like I failed to explain in a real accessible kind of way was armor. So I just want to take just 10 seconds here and just explain some just really basic important stuff to know about armor. So I explained how the mechanic works, but just some really quick benchmarks just to understand. If you have the same damage, so let me get in here and look at our person again. And I swear I'm just going to take just like 1 minute to just clarify this for you. We're not going to go through all the stats again. But basically, if you do the same amount of damage as they have armor, so if I did 80 base damage and they had 80 armor, it's going to mitigate 50% of that statistically. If they have a 2-to-1 armor advantage over you, so let's say that they have 100 armor and you're doing 50 damage, it's going to negate 75% of that. If you have 2 times the attack damage that they have armor, so for example, if you have 100 damage and they have 50 armor, it's going to negate 25%. So these are just some real easy benchmarks just to kind of gauge, if it's somewhere between a 1-to-1 ratio and a 2-to-1. So if they have somewhere between even and double what your damage is with armor, it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 75%. If you have, somewhere close to even to double the attack damage over their armor, it's going to be somewhere between 25% and 50%. So if you don't want to math nerd out and you really didn't understand what I was talking about statistically, those are just some really easy benchmarks to consider. But in general, like I said, just Real easy if you don't want to do any math at all. Just do not try to fight units that have low penetration on heavily armored units. That's just a really good rule of thumb. But I just wanted to clarify some of that about the armor. If you talk down in the comments, you want me to, draw up an algorithm for the specifics of how that works as a formula, I can do a little research and figure that out. I'm not a strong math guy. I'm in English. I teach English literature classes at a large university and strategic writing courses. So I don't do a lot of math, but I can figure that out for you if you'd like. Just let me know in the comments. Another thing, a couple of things during the fight that happened last time that I think I could have explained a little bit better is the flanking, morale, and sort of those interactions. So if you attack something from behind in this game, whatever you attack is going to get a large morale penalty usually. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I know that it causes some major morale penalties. So if you charge something in the back, it's going to do a lot of morale penalty, and it's going to do a lot more damage. It's a lot harder for things to defend, and they're getting hit on both sides at the same time in a sandwich. So just like real life, if you get sandwiched in a huge battle, it's definitely not good for business. Very similar with ranged. So if you're shooting people in the back with missile units, it's going to give a morale penalty, and they can't use, if they have a shield like this person here that blocks 30%, it says, if you read it right here, which I can't use the mouse at the same time, but it says small arms missiles fire hitting from the front. So that means if you hit them in the back or you hit them in the side, it's not going to have that 30% chance to block. So you're going to bypass any shields that they have. You're going to cause a morale penalty. And it's just really good for business to shoot people in the back and charge them from the back. That's why I was positioning my archers to shoot them in the back. It was just took a couple of extra seconds to reposition and do that, but it made a huge difference in how much damage I was actually dealing to them. So you saw that in action, but I didn't quite explain that because I was in the heat of the moment and trying to win a relatively tough fight there. So I just wanted to explain that for you one more time. Also, when you're shooting, friendly fire does happen. So that's why another reason why I was repositioning, you never want to shoot at a huge blob of units if your guys' backs are exposed to you, because then you're going to be shooting your own people in the back. And I'm not sure if it incurs the morale penalty the same way, but you're certainly going to hit a lot of your guys and you're going to kill them if you shoot them in the back. So never shoot your own guys in the back. One of the minor exceptions is when I had my legendary lord in there, because he's just one person and he was completely surrounded by those orcs. I felt comfortable shooting into that. I tried to position to where I wasn't going to hit him as much, but because there's so many of them and only one of him, they're going to be soaking up the vast majority of those arrows. Also, if it's a huge unit like a giant or one of the Arachnarok spiders from the orcs, because it's so large and towers over the other units, if you shoot at it with missile units, it should go over the heads of your units and just hit the enemy. So if they're fighting a large monstrous enemy, you can shoot friendly fire into an enemy because it's not going to hit them. The dwarves in particular are really short, and that actually matters because they're a lot less likely to get hit by your own friendly fire if you're facing something much taller. So Total War is very realistic in that way, and I think that's really cool. Those are just some things to consider in terms of ranged and flanking that I noticed when I went back and watched the fight that I didn't explain in the heat of the battle. So just wanted to break those down for you. One last thing with combat, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the new stuff for this episode. Unit size actually matters a lot. So a full unit of dwarf warriors, is 100 units strong, whereas a full unit of these orcs is 120 here. Still only have 32 remaining, but that means that a full unit versus a full unit, they would have 20 more units. So if we had even lines, they're going to have 20 more bodies in there getting into the fight. So that means that they could potentially be dealing a lot more damage if you had an even fair fight with large numbers. Dwarves in general have much smaller numbers, but their units are much sturdier because of the armor. So they're a lot less likely to die than the other units. But that's how the orcs compensate. They just have overwhelming numbers. They also have a lot higher health. So if you look at these guys, their top end health is 4,500. These guys, if they were healed up all the way, would be 6,300 health. Whereas the orcs, their top end health is 8,000. So they have like 1/3 more health. So that's really their version of survivability. They don't have as much armor. They only have 30 armor, but they just have a whole lot more units, and each one of their units is more sturdy. So they're just kind of good sacrificial meat shields in there. So that's something to just keep in mind as well. So if it looks like the dwarfs are overpowered because you're like, oh my god, you know, they have 50 more armor, I'm never going to kill them. Well, that's true in a sense, but also the orcs just have more bodies and they have a lot more health, so they're still going to be very competitive in a battle. So those are two aspects of fighting that I didn't mention as well that I just wanted to throw out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and start off with a battle, just like I promised. Won't do as much talking in this one. So we discussed at the end of last episode, they're going to get 5 fresh units from their barracks here, and they have 3 hurt units. Now, my front line is very hurt here, so this is a pretty risky maneuver. I'm going to have to use Thorgrim as kind of my damage soaker, and then just use these guys to try to complement him. I very well might lose the hammers, but I'm okay with that. They are a nice late tier unit, but they also have a 260 gold upkeep, so they're very expensive to maintain, versus these dwarves are 119. So these guys are... the hammers are more than double the cost, and you know, when we're only making 1,500 gold per turn, that's quite a significant cost. So if we have to lose these hammers, I'm not going to be too upset about it. I would like to keep them, but at the same time, you know, saving money is also a perk, as long as I can win this fight. So I think I'm going to go ahead and fight this, and the reason is, even though it might not be that favorable, because it's going to be 7 on 8, and we discussed how the AI gets huge bonuses in the last fight, they don't have a general right now. So that means that they're going to be taking huge morale penalties. It's not the same as actively killing a general in a fight. If you actively kill a general in a battle, it just creates a massive morale penalty for everybody in the fight. So if you ever kill a general, it's almost guaranteed you're going to win that fight. The same for you. If they ever kill your general, you're almost certainly going to lose. So just keep that in mind when you play with your general. It's not typically a good idea to charge headlong into, you know, 2 packs of units. I know that looks cool. You see them flying everywhere, and they're going to knock out and take out a lot of units, but it's definitely not going to be worth it if they kill your general. So I always like to typically put my general just kind of right in the middle of a huge pack of melee, and that way they can't ever really surround you, while at the same time your general's still getting hits in on the enemy. So it's not going to look as sexy, but it's going to be a whole lot safer for your own general. So they're not going to have a general here, which means they're not going to get a substantial morale penalty at the beginning, but they're also not going to get the morale bonus of having a general around. These units are also very squishy. The goblins, if you look there, only have 20 melee attack and 24 defense, and only 25 weapon strength, which, let me see, I think is pretty low penetration. Yeah, it's only 5 penetration, so pretty low, and very low armor. So I'm not too terribly worried about them. These orc boys, a little bit more problematic. But the bottom line is, I think we can take them. It's going to be a bloody fight. It's 7 on 8, but I think you guys want an interesting strategic fight, so I'm going to go for it. Now, I have an option here. I can either attack the orcs directly, or I can attack the town. And I'm going to attack the town. So the reason for that is he's going to have to reinforce if I attack this town. And if I kill the town, I'm pretty sure he's not going to be able to run away. At least that's how the mechanic worked in Attila. So this can also be a really good way to trap units. So, for example, if you just have some units just hanging out around a town and you haven't attacked them yet, traditionally if you attack and win a fight, they're going to be able to run away at least once. Sometimes they'll be able to run away multiple times in this game. So if you attack the town can't run away. If you win the fight versus the town, you're winning the battle. And so I believe this unit is not going to be able to run again if you win in the town. That's definitely how it worked in Attila, and it was a great way to trap people. So I think it's the same in Warhammer. So I want to attack the town. Also, I want to make sure that I get the town, because if I get it, that means that I'm going to take it over and get much higher replenishment rate, and get the money from any buildings that are left in there, and I'm going to get the money from looting it. All of these great perks. So I want to make sure that I attack the town. So if I attack this guy, I may not have enough movement left to take the town. I might, but I might not. So all in all, we're going for the town. We're going to do this.
I declare war on them.
Okay. Actually, it is giving me highly favorable numbers here. So like I said, I like to auto-resolve if it's over 75% typically. Especially because they do have numbers. I mean, they do have 8 people. I was just talking about how I'm going to win. but I don't. I mean, weird things could happen. You never know. I really don't want to leave this a chance, so I'm probably going to auto-resolve it. Now, I'm hoping that Thorgrim's going to soak up most of my damage here because he's the healthiest one. There's an outside chance this could just outright kill the hammers if I auto-resolve it. The auto-resolve mechanics are very fickle. You never know quite who they're going to put the damage on. Usually the damage goes on a frontline unit, gets front-loaded on the frontline unit. And a lot of times, a lot of damage will go directly to your general. So if you're trying to run around on the campaign trail and you need to keep your general healthy, sometimes it's not a good idea to auto-resolve because it's going to hurt your general, and then you're going to have to stop and take a lot of turns to replenish in a town or risk your general dying in battle. So it definitely has a risk to auto-resolve even major fights like this, but I'm just going to take it because the inherent risk is they just overrun and kill me also this early in the campaign. So let's just go ahead and auto-resolve and see what happens here. Okay, so give me a close victory. This guy had better be dead. That's all I got to say, because this is going to be him running twice, and I'm going to have to eat my words if this unit doesn't perish after this, because they should die. They shouldn't be able to run if you attack a town, and they support it. So, pretty favorable outcome. If we look at this, I only lost 120 versus 80, so it showed me about an 80% favorability rating, and that's what we got here. You know, it looks like, I got almost a little bit more than a 4-to-1, about a 4-to-1 ratio, so that's about, 80% domination there. Hammers got really hurt. You can see who performed the best here. So my Quarrelers just got a ton of shots in and killed things, which is pretty indicative of what would normally happen in a fight like this. And Thorgrim did take the brunt of a lot of the fight. He got a lot of kills. So they played pretty conservatively in the auto-resolve with these units, which I appreciate because they were pretty low. But okay, so let's go ahead and see what we get. So here you get options. You can either raise it, which is just burn it to the ground, no benefit for the dwarves. Pretty much I never do this option. Occupy just means that you just straight up take it, and you can get the buildings intact. So you don't know what the buildings are. You don't know exactly sometimes how they're going to convert over to your buildings, because you don't get orc buildings, you get your buildings. So I'm not sure quite what the conversion rate is there. Loot and occupy means that you get some money out of the situation. It's going to hurt some of the buildings, but at the same time you get some cash out of it. It also causes more instability, so it's going to cause 30 extra public order penalty for one turn, and then it's going to cause 10 extra public order penalty on the first turn, and then additional public order decaying at 1 per turn. So it's going to be 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 0. So that's going to add up to, like I said, I'm not a math person exactly. I don't know how to do that combination there off the top of my head without a calculator, but it's going to be a lot of damage, or a lot of public order problems. It's going to end up being 100 with the 30 plus the 10 scrolling down. It's going to be somewhere close to 100. So we're almost certainly going to get a rebellion out of this. The sack option just means that you just rob it, take this money, knock all the buildings down, and don't take over the building at all. And it just has this -10 decaying. I really don't like sack most of the time unless there's a huge discrepancy in the money, unless you're going to get thousands more. My favorite is usually loot and occupy. It's a good balance. You get some money and you get to occupy the settlement. So that's what we're going with. Oh my gosh, they got to run. Okay, well, now we know. I guess this is good to figure out early on in the campaign, in that they can run away if you attack nearby towns. So there you go, guys. We can all learn this together. They got to run away. Now, I got an ability here. I'll show you what this is in a second when I equip it. Okay, so we got $1,000 for taking that town. Very useful for ending one of those grudges.
Been put to work fixing up the captured city, sire. Yet there are many grudges still to settle. Perfidious manlings and bloodthirsty vampires threaten your kind in the north, and your mountain will never be safe while a single greenskin draws breath. To war!
Okay, so we walk through sort of the demo guy here. So now I have a new mission, which is basically just occupy, loot, sack, whatever, up to 3 settlements. So once again, doing what I want to do anyways, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of extra cash for making progress in the campaign. So that's a new objective. That is not a grudge.
Scouts report of a greenskin migration heading northwards. Spies say they intend to meet up and swell them.
Okay, so now we have another mission. So we want to go ambush at Thundering Falls. So we want to go to that location. And it'll automatically start a quest battle for us, I believe. Yes. So we go to the little blue circle, starts a quest battle, and we get a free runesmith, which is amazing. We definitely want that. And we get the dragon helm, which I haven't found a super good use for that yet. Later in the game, I suppose we might be fighting magic units. It might be interesting if I get the flamethrower units to put those on some infantry, so they take reduced damage, and then I can maybe flamethrower into my own units. And it might be worth sort of experimenting with that later, but I haven't found a use for it yet. Okay, so you can click here anytime you get a quest if you're not sure where it is, and it'll zoom to the location. So we've got that here. So there's a drop-down tab here. If you look at the grudges and quests, it'll show you your quests. If you have grudges in the grudge book, there will be a little button here that allows you to pin it. So then you can pin it up to this tab over here. So right now it's just a quest. So unlike a grudge, I don't have any penalties accruing for letting that quest sit there as long as I want. Although I would like to get it as fast as possible so that I can start leveling up the runesmith. Okay, but as we can see, what units are going to be involved in this fight as well. So we have a goblin spellcaster, a bunch of little garbage goblins, a couple of garbage goblin archers, some wolves, and a doom diver. Now the doom diver catapult is extremely dangerous. They basically shoot guided missiles at you. So it shoots these little goblins that basically have some kind of explosive concoction strapped to them, and they just basically suicide bomb right onto you. So they just fly over on these wings and just like run right into you. So they can't really miss because they can correct mid-flight. If you try to juke it or dodge it, or there's just an errant shot, they always correct. So they're almost going to have a 100% hit rate on whatever they choose to hit. So they do a lot of damage if you can't deal with them. And as I explained in the last video, the dwarves just don't have a good way of getting to artillery. Like, they don't have fast units, they can't really flank around and get over there, so you're just going to be taking hits from doom divers the entire fight, and they're very accurate. So that's a big problem. So when we do this fight, I fully expect the doom diver to get 100 to 200 kills easy. So that's very problematic. It also says that reinforcements are expected, so that means there's going to be another pack of units that shows up from somewhere on the map that's going to support them. So we don't even know how many units that is. So I definitely want a full stack coming in this. I want 20 units. I want a pretty serious force before I go over and try to deal with this. But I want to deal with it as fast as possible, because once again, I want that runesmith. Okay, so these guys ran away. They have almost nothing, so not a tremendous deal. This garrison over here has 5 units. They're not going to be able to recruit because they don't have a lord. So they're going to hire a new lord next turn, I suspect, and probably just hang out in this garrison. So they'll have a new lord, 2 hurt units, and 5 new units. So I'm going to replenish. This little yellow bar tells you how much you're going to replenish. It's relatively so. I'm going to get, a little bit back on my units. Alright, gain another level. We're going to go right up the red line. I explained all this last video, so if you're just joining me now, just go back to the last video and check it out. But basically, we're just going to run right through and get all of these stat bonus skills in this tree for pretty much every captain or every lord that we get. Okay, so after winning that fight, you see we have -47 right now, public orders. That's going to drop down to 17 a turn, but we're definitely going to have a rebellion on our hands soon. Okay, let's go ahead and look at techs. I haven't talked about this yet, but you have a ton of tech options. If you look at this, it can look pretty intimidating choosing which techs you want to get every turn. But this is basically all of your economy type of technologies, and these are all of your fighting type of technologies. So you have to kind of choose whether you want to go economy or fighting. But don't feel like you have to go all the way down these. They take sequentially more and more time. So if you click on this, it would take 53 turns to get all the way to deep extraction. So it goes from 3 to 4 to 5, 6, 8, 12. So it gets increasingly takes more and more time to research all of these texts. So I think a very viable strategy is to just pick up, maybe about halfway things that you enjoy from one section of the tech, and then go over and start picking up more over here, because I think you get more value for your time if you just pick up a lot more of these lower tier techs. There's really not a lot of game breaking stuff near the end of these trees. I mean, some of them are kind of nice, like extra casualty replenishment rate and one more recruitment capacity across your entire empire. That could be quite nice. But is this nicer than having maybe 5 or 6 very useful ones down here? I don't think so in a lot of situations. So the strategy that I'm going to use, and you heard me kind of raving about this in the last video about how I'm trying to remember. I don't think I talked about text last video. If I did, forgive me. I'm just going to talk about him again here really quickly, but I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about him. But I'm going to, the same principles. I want to buff up your basic dwarf infantry. So anything that buffs up dwarf warriors, I'm all about that. And I explained why in the last video with the skills is because they have a very low base on a lot of their melee and especially attack. And so anything that increases their attack and melee is a huge percentage gain increase in your combat effectiveness, not only in the early game, but throughout the entire campaign, because you're going to be recruiting a lot of dwarf warriors in your campaign. So look at this. Once again, absolutely ridiculous. We have 5 melee attack and 5 defense for dwarf warriors and dwarf miners. So a lot of your just bread and butter units, you're now getting huge. So once, if they have a 23 base melee attack, plus 5, that is, more than 20% effectiveness. That's somewhere between 20 and 25% extra combat effectiveness. They have 36 starting melee defense. Getting 5 more melee defense here is going to be, what, a 7th? So, what is that, 14% or so extra combat effectiveness. So 14%, 20%, that's 34% total combat effectiveness. So that is amazing. That's really, really good. So that only takes 6 points to get to that. So I highly recommend just getting that first. It's an amazing talent, amazing skill. We also get extra leadership. Now, like I said, the dwarves are already pretty sturdy, but 5 leadership is still pretty substantial. If they have 75, that's going to give you, what, an extra 10, I don't know, an extra decent little percentage of leadership, right? So maybe like 7% more leadership, something like that. This not as important. It's useful, getting the extra +2 unit experience. It gives you some stats across the board. I might actually consider getting that. I didn't do that in my last campaign, but now that I think about it, the more that I'm explaining how crucial dwarf warriors are, and the more unit experience can help. Unit experience basically gives your units more melee attack and more melee defense, and sometimes, depending on the unit, it can give them extra damage and extra morale as well. So I might actually get that now that I'm stopping and thinking about it, but we'll definitely get the leadership. O-Stone's not as important. We want interlocking shields, because this is for all dwarf shield units. This is not only your beginning units, this is also going to be your mid and even late tier units. Get an extra 5 armor and 5 defense. Now the 5 armor is not going to add a lot percentage wise, but it's still nice. The melee defense, once again, not going to be game breaking for a lot of your in-game units, but because it affects such a large swath of units, it's an extremely effective talent. So I would definitely get this. And then eventually we want to get to this 10% extra damage for various dwarf units. Those are huge bonuses, so very helpful. I think once I get to about right here, I'm going to switch over and get some of these money ones. The thing about these, and I've seen another popular streamer switched over and started getting all this money stuff first, and then you know, I didn't see him get any in this combat effectiveness. And I personally think that's not the most efficient way to go if you're looking for the best strategy possible, because a lot of this is percentage based. So you get income from settlements 5%, you get income from settlements 10%, right, every turn. So let's see what that would actually be. So right now, if we have a look at our buildings right here, we are earning 150 income, and once I repair this buildings here, once I repair this, we're going to be getting 120. So 150, 120, that's 270. So if I were to rush these abilities here, you know, over 6 turns and get 10%, even if I pick up that other 120 from the next town I'm going to attack next turn, you know, we're going to end up with what? 120 plus 120 is 240, plus 150 is 390. So we're going to have 390 income from the base settlement units. 15% of 390, if we just round that off to 40, is going to be 60 extra gold per turn. So we're making 1560 right now. That number is only going to increase as we take over this next town and add on a couple of extra money buildings. So we're probably going to be close to, you know, around 2,000 a turn maybe. So think about this. If we end up with around 2,000 a turn, you get 60. That is maybe 3% extra money per turn. I think it's exactly 3% if we have 2,000. So the trade-off here looks like, okay, do I want 3% extra income per turn, or do I want whatever that number was I said earlier? You know, do I want 35% more combat effectiveness for almost all of my baseline units in major fights that I'm going to have? I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, that you definitely want the combat effectiveness. We'll definitely get this earlier, but as we, you know, go around the map and take over a lot more units, take over a lot more towns, that percentage is going to be a lot more meaningful. So if we get our settlement income up to, you know, 2,000 income instead of 400, then all of a sudden, if we're getting 15%, that's going to be 300 per turn, which can be very significant. So my strategy going to be picking up a few of these, and then eventually once we get more settlements, then we'll come over here and get some of these money things. But for now, we're just going for as much help to the basic dwarf units as we can get, because we really want to crush a lot of battles and get in a lot of fights early. Okay, so let's talk about buildings here real quick. Number one, we're just going to repair this. It's 496. So I don't remember exactly how much gold I got. Let me see if it says in my events that happened here. Battle reports. Close victory. Okay, it's not going to tell me the details. So I don't remember if I actually got more by sacking this and hurting this building. 500 versus if I just occupied it. But a lot of times, if you loot a building, occupy it, then you actually get more loot than it costs you to repair the building. So we'll go ahead and repair that. It's 500. But you just want to repair these basic buildings usually as fast as possible, because it increases your money generation. So if I take that off and we look at it, it's only generating 40 income per turn. If you look at sort of the left tab over there, if I repair it, it's going to be generating 80. It costs 460, so that means over 12 turns or so, I'm going to get my money back on this repair. It also lets me actually build, you know, eventually get more growth and build more buildings in this slot. So early on, and almost always, you'll just want cash. I just want money early. This is such a good bargain. Look at that. It's only 650 bucks, and you get 200 per turn. That means it pays for itself in almost 3 turns. Anything else, just going to be a huge bonus. So, I mean, out of 1,500, you get an extra 200. You know, that's a very large percentage. So, that, easy money. I could upgrade this and go ahead and start getting quarrelers. It's very expensive. Quarrelers are your crossbow units. It's very expensive to do that. Let's go ahead and have a look at our building tree. So it tells you what you're able to build in each one of your settlements. I could also get catapults if I want those. Quarrelers. I think I have enough quarrelers for right now. I do have my eye on quarrelers, but we also want to start thinking about the future. What I mean by that is, looking at this baseline building tree, you'll notice that you get to your top end units at the third tier building here, right? So all of your secondary towns that aren't your capital, the maximum they can get up to here is your third unit. So they're only going to be able to go 3 high, no matter how much growth you have. So that's where they cap out. So since this can only cap out at 3, I would really like to put that in a supplemental building so it'll open up a slot here, because I'm only going to be able to build a grand total of 6 buildings here. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to want to build. Primarily, I want this all the way up the chain. I'm going to want this, so that's 2. I'm going to want this all the way up, so that's 3. Let me see. Okay, so let's look at the capital. So I want this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what I want. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to get diamonds here too, because I need the money. So there's 6 things that I want, and I only have 5 slots. So I'm going to have to make some important decisions down the line about what I build. And a lot of this is going to depend on trade agreements, which we'll talk about a little bit more when they become more relevant. But for now, I want to transition this over to this building as soon as I'm able to grow this up one, so that I can free up the slot to build more things. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to upgrade this to tier 2 right now when I'm just going to tear it down in a few turns. So this is out of the question. I could get this for catapults. I already have 1 catapult. I don't really need a lot else. What I do need is cash. So I'm going to go for this. It's 300 a turn. It gives you 28 sacks of gemstones, which are a tradable resource. They're worth 26 gold each, I think. So once I get some trade agreements, I'm going to be able to make some money off of those, hopefully. So, plus this is the only gold generating building I can build in this slot. If you'll notice over here, I built these Tinker Maker. If you ever have a resource on a settlement property, so for instance, if I had wood here, or salt here, or gold here, or just any other resource, you're not going to be able to build the Trinket Maker. The Trinket Maker is only available if you have no other resources that are available to you in that slot. So you can't get double money in the same slot, which kind of sucks, honestly. When we move down the campaign and I'm fighting everybody and they don't like me because I'm just dominating the world, I'm not going to be able to get a lot of trade agreements very easily, and I'm just going to be sitting on all these resources that I can't trade, when in reality I wish I could just get the flat gold for those. So that's an annoyance that we'll face down the line. But for now, we need a money building. This is it. So that's what we're going for. And like I said, eventually we want to transition this over to a lesser building. We want to get this teched up as fast as possible. And then we want this so we can get gunners. So that's kind of our short-term plan. Okay, so I can't move anymore because I just took this over. So what we're going to do is we're going to recruit. And I'm just going to grab 3 Dwarf Warriors. So your maximum recruitment is right here. I can only recruit as many boxes as there are right here, so only 3. There are buildings you can get and certain perks from, I think different characters can improve it as well, but primarily buildings will improve your slot numbers. So as that improves, you see, 4 or 5 or even 6 boxes out here. This is global recruitment. If you'll notice, the units cost not quite double, but pretty close to double the amount, and take double the amount of time. So a Dwarf Warrior would take 2 turns and cost this much. You can recruit this from anywhere on the map, as long as you are in encampment stance, or as long as you are in a town, you can recruit this. So if I was just in a really tight spot here and I was getting swarmed by all kinds of people on all sides and I just needed units desperately, and I just had some disposable income, I could just spam the global recruitment and the local recruitment and really fill up my roster quickly. But only one person in the entire map can use the global recruitment at one time. So if I get 3 Dwarf Warriors here, fill up all 3 slots, that means if someone on the other side of the map all of a sudden needs units, they're not going to be able to recruit while this one particular person right here is still waiting on those dwarf units. So it's really important to keep in mind. So I don't think it's too overpowered strategically. I like the flexibility, and I think it's pretty balanced. So I like this addition. This wasn't available in Attila. So since I mentioned stances, let's go ahead and look at the stances just really quickly. Some of these are self-explanatory, some of these are not self-explanatory. So Let's go ahead and take a gander. Alright, so I'm mustering right now. That's what it'll say anytime that you're just building units in your own territory. It just says mustering. It doesn't really have any modifiers. It just, you can't move while you're also deploying units. So this stance is the underway. I'll show you what this looks like next turn when I have more movement points, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it. Basically, your guy can pop underground and show up at another location automatically. It's like a teleport. He jumps underground like a little mole and then pops back up. So the range on it's pretty good. It would be like somewhere around here probably. So it's a little bit shorter than you would be able to march when I talk about the march stance here in a second. But it has all kinds of different consequences with it. So you can't have moved at all. So if you want to burrow, that has to be your first action of the turn. You can go under impassable terrain. So if I was over here, I could start here and burrow to this side of the mountain. There's a huge perk when you're a dwarf and you're in the mountains. Only the dwarfs and the greenskins can do this. So this gives you a lot more mobility. So if you're trying to outmaneuver chaos, or you're trying to get to a place really quickly, you can burrow across mountains. It also lets you get through areas that modify your movement. So this little area here with all the snow on it actually slows down how fast your units can walk over it. So with a lot of different races, it's going to take them a very long time to march over here. But because I can burrow underground and pop up wherever I want, I'm going to be able to do that a lot faster. Some of the other strategic elements in this is if you are near a hostile unit and you try to burrow away from them, so if you start the burrow near them, or if you burrow and end up close to them, they have a chance of intercepting you in the underway, which starts a really cool underground battle sequence. This is a fantastic addition to the game that wasn't present in Attila. So the enemy can choose to initiate this fight, so they don't have to fight it, but there's a certain percent chance. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but on Legendary it feels highly probable that if they want the fight, they're going to get the fight. And so basically it challenges you to a death match. You cannot retreat from that. So if they intercept you and you're trying to go underground, you're going to fight that fight. So you better win. And there's no running after the fight either. So if you lose the fight, you're losing everything. It's all getting wiped out. You can't run away. Which sounds pretty brutal, but think about the other side of this coin also, from a strategic point of view. That means they can't run either. So this annoying running, how this dude got to run away from me twice, and he's going to get to go back to his little town and maybe replenish a little bit and hire a new lord, that wouldn't happen if we fought underground. So you can use this to your advantage as well. You can bait them into fighting you, and this is amazing. This is one of my favorite things about the dwarves and the greenskins. Is that you can bait the enemy into fighting these underground death matches with you. And if they take you on and you win, they can't run away. Because one of the most annoying things in the game, if you've ever played a Total War before, is having a unit just consistently run away from you and do these guerrilla tactics where they run away. If you leave them alone, they come back, they rage you a little bit, they run away, and it poses two choices for you, which are both terrible. Either you can spend time running them down, and you're never going to catch them, and you're losing resources because armies cost money. This is costing me 1,200 gold per turn, and this is a really small army. The dwarves are very expensive. So, if you have a 3,000 gold full stack army chasing around, 5 goblin units that are raiding you, that's extremely inefficient. You're using 3,000 gold to run around and chase like 800 gold worth of units. That's a very losing proposition, especially on legendary mode where they get all kinds of bonuses to their income, growth. They don't care to waste your time. They want to waste your time. So it's terrible to try to chase them down, or you leave them alone and they come back and raid you. So you're losing either way if you get into one of those situations. So if you can challenge them to an underground deathmatch and win it, it solves it outright. You just maximize your time so you don't have to waste it, and just get them off the map. So a good way to do this is to figure out a way where the AI is going to underestimate you. So just have really good strategic units that are going to be able to counter their units very well, and just challenge them to a position where they think they're ahead, but you know that they're not ahead, and you can beat them in the fight, and then just get down there and fight them. So, if they have 16 units, and you have 15 units, but they're 15 good battle-hardened units. They've got some upgrades on them. You've upgraded them with skills from your skill tree. You know, you might have some good items on your general, just things that are very difficult for the auto resolve to calculate, and then just go fight them. So they have 16, you take 15 kind of upgraded units, jump in there. They'll probably fight you, have a death match, win. Phenomenal. It is so good. You'll see me do this quite a few times on the campaign, is bait them into these underground fights, and it's just amazing to do strategically. And I haven't seen any other streamers talk about that. It's an amazing option that you really need to leverage if you are dwarfs or greenskins. And it's really important also to think about anyone can fight you underground. So you can do this near vampires, you can do this near humans. They can all fight you. They can't initiate the burrowing. Only the dwarves and the greenskins can initiate the burrowing, but anyone can go down there and fight you. So that's important to think about. So they explain some of this right here, but of course they don't explain the really important strategic implications that I just gave you there for that. In camp, so if you have 50% of your movement speed left, then you can just go ahead and encamp. This is really nice if you're running through something like vampiric corruption, or you're running through the Badlands down south to chase orcs, because you don't lose to attrition. We'll talk about attrition more when it becomes more relevant. But basically, if your units are in an area that's inhospitable to them, they're going to take damage at the end of the turn, unless you're in an encamp stance. Another often neglected bonus, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about it on the streams, is this 5% melee defense and 5 leadership. Like, that might not seem like a lot, but I already talked about the merits of some of these statistical numbers on low base units like dwarf warriors. It can be quite a lot. I mean, that can really turn a fight. So what are the implications of this? So basically, if you're at a small town like this, it doesn't have walls, and you're just going to be fighting in the open field anyways, just step out to this little red circle area and go into encamp stance if you have movement points left. Because why not? You're going to get a free 5 leadership, you're going to get a free 5 defense from encamp, and you're still going to get supported by the garrison in this town. It's just like you're sitting in the town anyways. The only trade-off is you're not going to replenish quite as much, but you're going to get that extra bonus of the leadership and defense, which in a close fight can really matter quite a lot. So that's something else I don't hear streamers talk about a lot, that I think is pretty important. Raiding. So you will see me raiding my own territories sometimes, and this may seem counterintuitive, because you would naturally think, oh, you want to raid other territories, because if you raid enemy territories, it gives you gold, it causes public order, it'll give them rebellions. But to be honest, if I'm getting towards an enemy, or if I'm getting towards another faction and I want to fight them, I'm just going to kill them. I'm just going to go in, fight their army and take their town and make it my own. I'm not going to play around with sitting there wasting time raiding, because once again, armies cost a lot of money. If you have a 3,000 gold army just sitting there raiding, and you're getting 700 gold off the raiding, you're really losing 2,300 gold off of that exchange. That's a waste of time to do that consistently. So at least with the dwarves, some other factions might get bonuses for raiding, like chaos or other horde mechanic type of factions, but for dwarfs, that is a very inefficient use of your resources, so I would not recommend raiding other lands, unless you're just like buying a couple of turns time, you don't have anything better to do, and you're like waiting on a reinforcing army, or something like that. So I don't recommend raiding other lands that often. Just either kill them or don't. But if you raid your own lands, look, it says it gives you negative 30 public order. Actually 33, because it naturally gives -3 to the raided province and negative 30 if you're in your own. So you might be saying to yourself, well, why the heck would you want to lower your own public order, right? Because we were just talking about how important it is to try to keep good public order in the last episode. Well, if you get to negative 100, that means that a rebel army is going to come out, and if a rebel army comes out, that means you can fight them. So you fight this rebel army, you get free gold off of it. First of all, you're going to get a grudge, because as soon as they come out, they're going to raid you as well. So you're going to get a grudge on them. It's probably going to be between 750 and 1,000 gold to wipe them out. You're going to win both fights, so you're probably going to get at least 200 gold from each of those. That's 400, plus, the 1,000 that you got before. So, you're getting somewhere around, between 1,000 and 2,000 gold to kill this rebel army. You're also going to get magic items off of it, and you're also going to get experience off of it for your general. So these are three really important things: gold, magic items, and experience, especially for low-level generals. So you want to raid your own province. If you have nothing better to do, you're just kind of sitting around waiting, like maybe there's an enemy army, chaos is coming for you, something like that, and you just need to keep a respectable army in place for when they come. Raid your own province. Get some of this free gold, free money. Now, it's not going to pay for itself, so it's not super exploitative. So if you have a 3,000 gold army and you're only getting 1,500, every other turn from raiding, that's obviously you're still losing money, but you're not losing as much money, and you're getting the experience and items. So I think it's a really good option that a lot of people just don't know that you can actually do that. I didn't know that until I sat there and read it carefully. So definitely keep that in mind as an option. Now, I don't think it's exploitative either, because, like I said, you're still losing money. It puts your public order in a terrible position. So if every time you beat one of these little rebel armies, then your public order is going to go down 20 again. So you're going to go down to about negative 80 public order. So that means if you leave the province with this general that you've just been raiding with, and let's say that you're losing 5 public order per turn in the red, that means in 4 more turns you're going to get a rebellion, and your general's not going to be there that time to stop it. So you're going to have to take that into consideration with your movement. So it's a very dangerous proposition. Also, if another army just rolls up, let's say if I'm raiding this own province here, just kind of farming these rebel armies for experience and items, and then these guys just roll up with a 20-stack army right when a rebel army's there, now I've got to fight 2 armies at once, and it's a very precarious position. If you don't deal with the rebel army the turn it comes out, it'll come out with 8 units. If you don't deal with it, it goes up 6 units a turn. So it'll go up to 14 and then 20, a full 20 stack that you're going to have to deal with. So it's risky. So it's not exploitative. It is a very interesting strategic possibility that a lot of people don't know exists. So just be aware of the risk, be aware of the benefits, and make some interesting and thoughtful choices with that. And you'll see me do that throughout the campaign. But I just wanted to explain a little bit about why I'm doing that, and how you can do that and have that benefit your campaign as well. Because once again, something that's not talked about a lot. Ambush stance is cute. You basically lie in wait, and if someone comes up on you, within your ambush distance, you get an ambush fight. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen an ambush fight live. I think I saw one on one of the Total War beta streams a few weeks ago. But from my understanding, ambush means that you're able to deploy on both sides of your opponent. So you're able to get in front of them and get behind them and just create that sandwich, which sounds really good, right? I was just talking earlier in this video about how flanking can be a very powerful mechanic. But not for the dwarves. Like, they're really slow, and you don't want to split your army up like that. You want a really strong line, and you want to, ground and pound, hold them, fire, just like I did in the battle that we saw. You want to be able to just hold them, flank around if you can with your units, and just shoot them in the back. If you split up your army, they can just devote their entire force to killing one of your army, just run straight at them. So if it's greenskins that split it up, they just go take out half of our army before the other half can even get there to support them. Because the dwarves are so slow, they can't get over there and help out fast enough. So it can almost hurt you to do some of these ambush battles as the dwarves. As other factions, it might be useful, but for dwarves, we're pretty much never going to do that. But that's just something to consider. March stance, basically you get an extra 50% campaign movement range, but your recruitment is disabled, so you can't hire anything if you've marched. You also start off tired in battle, and we talked about in the last video how vigor can affect your swing rate, it can affect your movement rate, it can affect your fire rate, so it's just lots of bad things if you start off the battle tired. And perhaps most important of all, you cannot initiate a battle. You see that bottom line of text there. So you can't run 50% and just start a fight with somebody. But, and this is a huge consideration. I've never seen this mentioned on a stream. People might do this sometimes, but I had never heard this mentioned until I just experimented and tried it out myself. You can march and support an army. So you can't start the fight, but you can support a fight. So, for example, if I had another army sitting let's say that I had an army sitting in Kara Zakarak here. This is a pretty common scenario. I have another army sitting here. Let's say that we have an army just roll up here and just start raiding this territory right here. I'm in range to engage them with these guys, but I would not be in range to engage them with these guys with normal movement speed. However, with the march speed, I could probably get in range of them, so I could run over here with march, just sit right outside their red circle, engage them with these guys, and then these people that I ran with would actually support them in the fight. So that's a great way to have high mobility and get superior numbers. So yes, you might start the battle fatigued, like this said, if someone engages on you. But if you're doing one of these supporting fights, you're probably going to have superior numbers, and you're going to be able to auto-resolve it most likely. And I don't think the auto-resolve takes your tired state into account. That might not be true, but I don't think that it does. And so if you do that and you plan on auto-resolving the fight anyways, it's a fantastic option that I would say 90% of people, if not more, don't know that's available. So I just gave you a lot of secret knowledge there. So you'll definitely see me taking advantage of that throughout the campaign, but I want you to be able to use that knowledge as well. Okay, so that goes through the stances. I know that maybe seemed basic. You're like, I know the stances, but hopefully I gave you a little bit of enlightenment about how to use the underway properly, how to raid your own territory, and then how to use marching to help reinforce your own armies. All three of those are very, very handy tricks as dwarfs that very few people talk about. So let's see. So we've got maybe another 5 minutes or so. I would like to keep these episodes to an hour. Once again, this was quite a bit of exposition. It's just once I get going on this stuff, I just want to explain it to you guys. I want to give you as much information as possible so that you understand some of these strategic moves that I make. And then that way down the line, when I start making these moves, you'll understand why I'm doing them. And I won't have to stop and explain quite as much about how these strategic elements of the game work, because you'll already understand them. So hopefully I'm setting you guys up for a greater level of understanding as you watch the campaign, which is the entire goal. Like, I'm not here to glorify, myself and say, oh, I can beat this on Legendary, or, oh, I just want to show off to the viewers. I'm here to try to help you play a better game and just enjoy your experience, because who doesn't like winning? Who doesn't like fully understanding the strategic elements at your disposal and really taking advantage of those and thinking critically and making great decisions and just, really dominating the AI that presents a really good challenge. I want to give you that experience, so that's why, these first couple episodes I'm going to give you a lot of exposition. Okay, so one of my final decisions of the turn here is I have these hammer units. They only have 15 left, and they're costing me 270 per turn. So typically, if you have really low unit counts, you can combine them. These are all different, so I can't combine them. But if you shift-click them, you can press this little combine button, and it'll merge them together. So one of the main reasons you want to do this is it saves cost. It's all about money, like I've said before. So anytime you can cut upkeep costs, it's usually a pretty good idea, as long as you're not going to put yourself at too much of a strategic disadvantage. Now, these guys are probably going to die next turn anyways if I engage this fight, because I suspect he's going to run into town, and then I'm going to run over there and fight him. So there's a good chance they might die next turn. So I'm just going to pay the extra 270 this turn, go in there, maybe they die, maybe they don't. If they survive, I'm just going to kick them anyways, because they're just way too expensive, and I don't want to wait around for the replenishment. But I do want them for this battle, because I just want to make sure that we secure that fight. Okay, finally, I'm going to end the episode here just looking at the diplomacy menu. So it's just real quick talk about
with
diplomacy.
Foreign powers may be managed through diplomacy, my lord.
Okay,
Consider your situation carefully before accepting any agreement.
Okay, so looking here, I'm steadfast. This is your trust rating. So this is what other factions think about your reliability. So if you have steadfast or a really high modifier, they're much more likely to do alliances with you, do trade agreements with you, not declare war on you to a lesser extent, but they're just going to treat you better. It just makes sense, right? Like, if you're a nice guy, you're trustworthy, you're doing good things around the world, people are going to be much more likely to do business with you. The strength rating is how the number you are in terms of strength of the of all known races. So, for example, 52 means that there are 51 other factions in the world that are stronger than me. So I am very low on the totem pole. If you look at, something like Barak Var here, who are these purple dwarves that are just down to my southwest here, they're rank 20. So that means they either have a much bigger army, have more territory than me, or have higher technology than me. All three of those go into strength rating. So it's territory, army, and technology. I'm not sure of the exact ramifications of that, but those are the three things that go into it. So basically, as you start winning more, going through your campaign, moving up the strength rating, that will have diplomatic repercussions. So if we look right now, these are your modifiers. So as you do positive things with the faction, you get a green modifier. So I have a treaty with them right now. I believe it's a non-aggression treaty and a trade agreement. So you can see trade, non-aggression, and I have military access, which means I can run through their territory and not suffer any sort of diplomatic penalties. If you run through a territory and you don't have permission to do that, then a lot of factions will see that as a sign of hostility. So be careful doing that if you don't intend to fight them. Okay, they have aversion. So they have dwarven distrust, which means they don't like other dwarfs. So that's going to give me a negative diplomatic penalty because I'm a dwarf. So that's what that negative 15 aversion is. And I let go of some of the bloody spears. So releasing those troops gives me a -1 diplomatic penalty with them because they don't like greenskins. So when I let them go, they don't like it. Also, one more follow-up to the reinforcements, or to the release captives that I mentioned before. That in no way strengthens their empire. So all those captives just basically disappear. It's strictly for making that political choice. So if you release captives, they don't get stronger replenishment. They don't get those units back in their army, at least as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but it doesn't affect the strength of the other faction at all. So you give them 300, you release 300 captives. That doesn't mean that they're automatically going to replenish their orc boy units or whatever for 300. Okay, so that's just how diplomacy works. There are various different things, creating. I'll just go ahead and click on one here just to show you real quick.
Honor to your ancestors.
So you can choose to try to form alliances with them. You can do a confederation, which I'll just talk about in another video when it becomes more relevant. You can break treaties with people. You can either demand payments from people, or you can offer to give payments to other people. So if you give them payments, it gives you a diplomatic bonus. So if you give them a small gift, I believe it gives you 10 extra green points. So if you really want a person to go up on the green meter, make them more likely to do trade agreements with you, or more likely to join you in a war or something, try giving them a gift if you have some extra money. It helps your diplomacy out just a little bit. You can also demand payments. If someone is your friend, you can actually ask them for free money sometimes. And I've very rarely see streamers do this. I've seen Legend of Total War do this some in his Western Roman Empire, and he gave me the idea for this. But it pays to have friends, and this makes sense, right? Like, there's a reason to try to have friends in this game, if at all possible. So this guy's my friend. I can demand a gift of 300. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see if we can demand a gift of 500. It'll tell you the likeliness of them accepting. So moderate means they might take it. So let's see here. Still moderate. 1,500. Okay, so that's low. So that's not going to happen. If it says low, it's not going to happen. If it says high, that means it's automatically going to happen. And if you ever see something that's high, you should bargain and try to get more out of the deal. I'll explain that as that becomes more relevant. But let's try one of these upper moderate numbers here. Let's see if he'll just give me 1,000 gold for being his friend. Okay, he won't do it. It's a little high. That's fine. It doesn't hurt to ask for more than you think you're going to be able to get. Just like in life, it's all about negotiation here. So he won't give me 1,000. Let's see if he'll give me 750. Moderate. It doesn't hurt your chances of asking again for less money. Okay, so 750. So it says best accept gift to my people. So we just got 750 bucks just for asking this guy if he will give us 750 bucks. Now you can only do that once every so often. I'm not sure the exact amount, but it's like, once every 5 to 10 turns, you can ask for money. And if you still have good diplomatic relations with them and they still have some disposable income, a lot of times they'll give you the cash. So keeps you happy, keeps them happy, gives you a reason to keep them around. So it all makes sense. I don't think it's that exploitative. If you have friends in the real world, a lot of times they will help you out. They'll give you some money if you ask for it. So try not to ask your friends for money. I'll preface by saying that, try to be self-sufficient. Don't be a mooch. But in this game, with so many chips stacked against you on legendary mode, with how much extra money all the other factions get, I think that it's perfectly fine to ask for some money every now and then, especially because it gives you a strategic reason to try to keep your friends around. So these guys are friendly with me as well. Not quite as friendly. The 49 here. I've got 35 here, but let's see. See if we can get old cash from them as well.
Let's hear what you have to say. We'll hear it before Oath Gold.
Okay, so let's demand payment. This can also be a little feeler to see sort of how much they like you. If they're willing to give you money, that means they're probably not going to go to war with you anytime soon. So they're less likely to backstab you. They can still backstab you if they want to, but if they're giving you gold, it's highly unlikely that they're going to backstab you the next turn. Whereas if they say they're your friend, if you have a non-aggression pact, and these points are dropping, so if for some reason you're starting to decline in friendship, or they just won't give you any money. So if someone has like 70 in the green with you and all of a sudden they won't give you 300 bucks, that is very suspicious. You might want to be very careful that they could turn on you very soon. So just keep that in mind, that if someone says they're friends with you and they won't give you a little bit of cash when you ask for it, you should be very suspicious of that person. So that can give you a little bit of a hint as to their intentions. So once again, I don't think that's exploitative. I think that's true to reality. If someone's acting weird, you should start asking some questions. Okay. 300, 500. Let's try 1,000. I don't know if he's going to give me as much because, well, we'll try 1,000. He might have more money. No. Let's try 750 again, just because he likes me slightly less than the other person, statistically at least. Okay, he gave me the same amount though. So I just got 1,500 free gold. I know they're not going to turn on me. Let's see. Sifbar. Now these guys are really strong. I want to try to confederate with them eventually, but if they won't confederate, then I also want to fight them. But for now, let's also see if we can get a non-aggression pact with them.
What can we do for you on this fine day?
Let's see if they'll give me some money for that too. 300 bucks, non-aggression. Okay, so he won't give me money, but he will do a straight-up non-aggression pact, and I'm willing to do that. This is going to improve my relationships with him even more. So if I get up close to him, I'm going to be able to trade and offload some of these diamonds with him down the line. So I want to do that. I think it also makes him more likely to want to confederate with me down the line, which I want this territory. So I can always break the treaty and attack him later if I have to. I would like to, not be a jerk and just do it diplomatically. But I'll do what I can. So I have a non-aggression with the Empire. They don't like me nearly as much, as you can see. So
how fares the Karazhan Corps in these dark times?
We're starting to run a little bit over on time. So we'll go a little bit longer here. But I'll end this very soon. We'll see if they'll give me any cash. 300. 500. Okay, no 500. Even though it was moderate. Now he's in the yellow, remember. So he's less likely. Okay, so he's not going to give me any cash. I've already got a non-aggression. That's as much as I'm going to be able to do. I'm at war with all the greenskins. Greenskins can't even do trade agreements. It's just not even worth doing diplomacy with them, honestly. Border Prince is pretty low.
Do not
Let's see what we
treat
got
me as
here.
a friend, nor are we foes yet.
Trying to think. I'm going to break this later because I want their territory. But I also don't want them attacking me while I'm dealing with the greenskins. So, okay. So you see, they say they're normal with me, they say they're neutral, and they don't want a non-aggression pact. So that's something that you should be taking a mental note of here. Okay, these guys turn me down, they don't want a non-aggression. Whereas the Empire also is neutral with me, but I have a non-aggression with them, and these guys wanted a non-aggression with me, although they have a much friendlier reputation. So if someone's neutral with you and they're declining a non-aggression pact, you should be a little bit suspicious of that. So we'll keep our eye on the border princes here. So, okay. So that, I believe that will do it for this turn. Once again, a whole lot of exposition. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I hope I was able to teach you a whole lot here. And I'm just going to go ahead and just do one more episode back to back, just so that I can show you some more fighting and just really get into some more map movement and strategy, rather than just a lot of statistics and sort of preamble for setting up, so you guys understand some of these fundamental aspects of the game that will influence some of my decisions down the line. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm going to go ahead and end the episode here.